Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you all for being here tonight at the District 2 Supervisorial Candidates Forum. My name is Elizabeth Larson with Lake County News, and I'm tonight's moderator. And I want to acknowledge our co-sponsors for this event and a series of upcoming events we'll be having for the other 4 races this year. Lake County Economic Development Corporation and the Lake County Bar Association are our partners this year in the forums, and we're very grateful for their help and assistance. And Jeff Lucas of the EDC is here tonight. He will be sharing index cards and picking up questions from you as you have them, so don't hesitate if you hear something during the course of the evening. Just flag Jeff down. Jeff, if you just raise your hand so everybody can see you again, thank you. And so just don't hesitate to do that. So we're very pleased tonight to have with us the 2 candidates, Joyce Overton and Bruno Sabatier. We're glad that in this busy campaign season that they've joined us, so thank you both very much. Tonight we just want to give them a chance to explain what they want to do if they were elected District 2 Supervisor, and give us a little bit more about them. They both serve on the Clear Lake City Council, so you may be familiar with them, but tonight is an opportunity to get to know them a little bit better. So what we're going to do, for those of you who are familiar with the forums we've done in the past, we're going to start with some introductions and then we'll work into the questions. We've, through a coin toss, have determined the order for the questions. And just to give it a back and forth, just to do some variation so the same person isn't answering in the same order all the time. So let's just start with opening statements. Each of them will have a minute just to introduce themselves, and just sort of that's the warm-up before we get into the questions. So we're going to go just in name order, and then when we get into the questions, we'll go into the rotational order determined by the coin toss. So Joyce, we will start with you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Elizabeth, for having this forum for us. My name is Joyce Overton, and I am running for District 2 Supervisor. I have been in the public forum, per se, for over 40 years. I have sat on the City Council here in Clear Lake for almost 14 years. There's some very inventive things that have happened since I've been on council. When I started, it was because basically our city was in a downspin, and I seen that there was a need for some change and some productivity to move the city forward. So I'm very happy to say that in 14 years, government's slow, but in 14 years I see the city has prospered and moved forward, and I would like to take this on up to the supervisor level where I've worked with the state and federal level already. I feel at the county that I'd be able to work even more for our District 2, and I've done some things like the youth center and Warm for the Winter programs here that really help the people that are in need. And so I am just asking for your vote on June 5th.
Thank you. Bruno.
Good evening. Thank you, Lake County News, for bringing us together so we can inform the public on who we are. Thank you for those of you who made it tonight here in the audience. My name is Bruno Sabatier. I was elected in 2014 to be on the City Council of Clear Lake. In 2018, I was appointed mayor, and I am very excited about the positions that I've been able to hold. I came to this community in 2008, went to Yuba College here. By the time I graduated in 2011 and moved on to UC Davis, I knew that I wanted to be on the council. I was raising a family in Clear Lake, and I wanted to see us move forward. I believe that since I've been on the council, we've taken great strides, and we're seeing some visual change in the city of Clear Lake. And I think that we've also seen a difference in the leadership that is here on the dais, in the sense that we have better governance as well. And I am looking for your vote. I'm excited to move forward and look at the bigger picture for Lake County District 2.
Thank you. Okay, let's get into the questions. Now, this first question will build a little bit on what we just did. This is going to give you a little bit more time to talk about why you're seeking this office. So starting with Joyce, and also during the course of the evening as I'm asking questions, if you at any time need me to repeat a question, don't hesitate to ask. So please share with us your reasons for seeking this office. What knowledge and abilities do you possess that you believe make you uniquely qualified to lead the county's largest population center? And at the end of your service on the board, what would you envision having accomplished?
Okay. I've worked a lot at the state level here, just fighting for our local money to stay local in our county already. I have sat on the League of Cities Board, which is a legislating board at the state level that helps fight the different legislations that take the small cities' money and other money away from. We work on legislation. I represented the small cities of California. That's one seat on a board of about 50 that I represented. I already work well with our senators and our congressmen and assemblywomen, trying to fight for money to keep things here. I was instrumental in getting the first $100,000 here for our algae problem and our invasive species problem that we had here a few years back. If you guys remember how bad it got here, we couldn't hardly breathe. So I'm really looking forward to working harder with them. I'm already working with them on some other programs right now. One of the things I found hard at the state level is when I go to these Senate hearings, they pretty much ask me where my county representative is. Even though I'm there from the county and I sit on our city council for all these years, I feel like that they don't take me as seriously as what they would if I was a supervisor. So I feel that it's time for me to move up to that position to where I could really get in there and fight and work to get this money back into our local agencies here and help our county and our cities, get some of this money that we tend to be losing out on because our people are not down there, and you have to be down there at those levels to fight for this money. You have to know what's going on. You have to be at those meetings and make that contact. I've gotten a lot of grants that have been sent to me that I was able to send to the city, and we were able to get some of those grants because I was sitting in those positions. So I'd like to continue to do that at the county level.
Thank you. Bruno.
So why I'm seeking this office. During my time that I've been in the city of Clear Lake as a council member, I've recognized that we as a city are moving forward, but unfortunately the county is really struggling, and I think that they need help. I think some of that help is going to require some open-mindedness. We need to be open for change, because it might seem that the old ways are no longer working to make us viable, and we need to move forward to be able to stay in the positive and to make positive change. We need to think outside of the box, and I think I bring that kind of quality and personality to the plate. And also I have shown that I can represent the people and connect with the people really well, and I think that one of the examples is in Measure V. I became the chair, and I think it was so to use me to help combine all of the communities into one, to really see and have public trust on what it is that the government wants to do for them. We saw in our numbers, the numbers were below 50 in public trust, yet we were able to get them to vote for us and to make Measure V happen. And I think that's a really powerful personality trait to bring when you have a struggling situation. We need to turn things around in Lake County, and I think that I have the ability to do so. I agree with Joyce as well about Sacramento. I plan on being in Sacramento at least once a week, if not once every 2 weeks. We need to be down there talking to our representatives. An email does not do justice. We need to be there at the committee level to go ahead and submit the information that we need to help get our county on the map and have them understand what our needs are. I think it's important that collaboration between state, county, and city happens. Between county and city, I can say that it's been a struggle, as both the county and the city has had their own struggles, and collaboration is not always an easy thing for them to come together with. But I think that if we have a higher level of collaboration and use our resources in a more efficient manner, that we can get a lot more done. And my plan is to make that collaboration happen.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Bruno. It's been 4 years since the District 2 supervisorial seat was on the ballot, and I don't know about all of you, but 2014 seems like a lifetime ago when you consider all that Lake County has endured in that time. With that in mind, based on what you've observed as a citizen and as a council member and in your other roles in the community, how do you think District 2 has changed in the past 4 years?
So in the past 4 years, I think there's one major thing that's occurred between the city and the county, and I'll get to the floods and the fires afterwards. One of the things that we really needed and we finally obtained was our AVA funds, and that was at the county level ready to disperse. That's one of the things that I want to make sure in the future doesn't take so long to be opened and brought to us. I think it took about 1.5 years for the supervisors, after being told by the Attorney General that it was a fee, that we would now be able to disperse it to the cities. The city here had over 300 cars towed, while in comparison to Lakeport where it's 15. So obviously we really needed that, and those are the types of relationships between the city and the county that I want to strengthen and make sure that we get what our needs are and our needs taken care of sooner than later. However, on the other side, I want to say that with the fires, especially in District 2 for the sulfur fire, the collaboration between the county and the city was phenomenal to get things cleaned up, to get things organized, to get our local assistance center going. The social services were truly magnificent and helpful in getting those operations going. And of course, our city is consistently, unfortunately, in need of social services and low-income assistance. And those coming from the county has helped us stay afloat. And I'm hopeful that in the near future we can help our citizens and residents so that they do not have to rely and depend so much on those services. But for now, that relationship with the county has been a saving grace for us to keep our residents going.
Thank you. Joyce?
You want to repeat that just one?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's kind of a story problem.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years since District 2, the District 2 seat was on the ballot. Considering that it's been quite a length of time, what do you think as a citizen, as a council member, and in your other roles in the community, how do you think District 2 has changed in the past 4 years?
Well, I think the most, of course, happened over the last 3 years with the fires. What I have seen is more collaboration with the counties and the cities and fire departments. One of the things that you didn't hear very much from is the fire departments, and I really feel like they're our most essential facility that we have because they're the ones that protect us. I see our police departments collaborating more with all organizations. Now when I go to meetings, I see that they're included in, with the facilitations of things that happen. They're no longer not invited. We failed to realize, I think the fires have made us realize how important our police department and our fire departments and the cities and the counties working together to create something successful. I was very proud of our county because what I heard as I ran the evacuation centers were over and over again on how great our community came together and how people that traveled all over the world had never seen that before. So I think the most that changed over that was all of the collaboration now that we have with all of the different departments that I feel we did not have that before.
Thank you. All right, so the next question, actually, we have two very similar questions, so I'm going to work to combine them into one, and Joyce will go first. So these two questions are about sanctuary cities and a sanctuary state, California. So what's your position on sanctuary cities and the idea of California as a sanctuary state? And if you're for it, why? And if you're against it, why?
That's a hard one because, I get asked this one before. And, it's really unfortunate that this even has to be a question. That's kind of sad. And it's also unfortunate that if you become a sanctuary city or a sanctuary county, the federal government is stating that they're going to no longer give us funding. If we were not able to get funding as a city, the city would close. So for us, it would be very detrimental to be a sanctuary city, but personally, I would really feel much better than it's not really whether I want it, it's really whether the community wants it, and I really feel that would be a vote that I would think that the community should make.
Thank you. Bruno?
So, as many know, I am an immigrant from France, came here legally with my parents when I was 5 years old. I didn't have a choice in that move. But the sanctuary city and the sanctuary state, even from the perspective of an immigrant, I feel that it's not an even playing field. If somebody does a crime, why should they be seen as two different people doing the same crime? And I think that they should be treated just like any other criminal and processed just like any other criminal. I've talked to some immigrants that are here in our city, in our county, that are illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. And we agree that a decision was made where, unfortunately, they would be looking over their backs, and there may be sometimes, or there's a circumstance where they might have to be deported. But there are ways for undocumented immigrants to become documented immigrants. For instance, I just helped and wrote a letter of support for a community member that I've known for a long time. They went back to their home country of Mexico. They submitted all their packet to the through the immigration system at the American Embassy, and they obtained their green card. There are ways to make this happen so that we can go ahead and help whoever is here to become a legal immigrant. We do not have to keep them illegal. We do not have to ignore the fact that they're illegal. There are ways to get them through a pipeline, and there's ways through legal immigration. Legal immigration. And so, in my opinion, I'm against the sanctuary city. I think it highlights us in ways that we don't want to be highlighted. I think it protects something that we shouldn't be protecting. If you do something that is a crime, I want to get this crime out of Clear Lake. I want to get this crime out of Lake County. Whether you are undocumented or not, you should be dealt with accordingly. And so, no, I think the sanctuary state and sanctuary city creates a dangerous situation. And I believe it also creates a little angst towards those that may even be legal immigrants, because unfortunately we stereotype and put people in the same box without knowing their actual status.
Thank you. Okay, Bruno, you'll answer first on this next one. Again, from the audience. What can the county do to make long-term economic development happen?
First and foremost, there needs to be a plan. What is the long-term 10-year vision, which we just received from the county not too long ago of having created it? It's too bad that we haven't had one before this. This was recently created, and these priorities are what will help us focus on what to get here so that in 10 years we can get there. We can't just piecemeal it together without an actual plan. There needs to be a full-blown plan. What we need to also do is stick to the plan. For instance, I want to bring up what happened in Middletown. If it doesn't fit within the area plan for the area, why are we trying to break it? It'd be like breaking our general plan for the city of Clear Lake just to move forward an idea for economic development. The plan is made so that it makes sense as to what is where and who is what. And what is possible, and so I think that we need to look at those plans. We need to update those plans. For instance, in Cobb, they haven't updated their plan since 1989. I think there's a lot that has changed, especially since the fires, that we should probably review those and update those. That's really old. Our general plan was from 1985. We just finally renewed it, and I can understand the needs for renewing these things. But a goal for economic plan is to, first off, have a plan and then move forward with it. And right now, I think that there is a good plan with an idea of how to market our community and how to bring in businesses and what kinds of businesses we want, and also what kind of tourists we want to bring here, because what are we attracting here? What's our attraction to bring people here? And also what kind of accommodations do we have for them? We know we're low on things like lodgings or hotels. And so we should be focusing on some of those things and make sure we solve we have a lot of holes, and we should be filling those holes, and that's part of the plan.
Thank you. Joyce?
Well, I believe we have to start with what we have now. Economics means many different things, but it really bases to the point of we kind of have to fix what we have in order to move economically into the future. We've seen that with the city. We had to come in and kind of fix the city and find out where we stood before we could even move the city forward. So, we have to kind of take care of some of the problems, the economic problems that we have now, because you're not going to be able to move forward in a prosperous way if we don't help with housing, giving people some basis of being able to go out and get jobs. When you have homeless, that's a substantial amount in our area. It makes it hard to give them jobs when they have no places. So we do need to start with the housing. Small businesses have always been the backbone of America, and they still are. Bringing in big corporations have failed us. We have seen that, and I don't believe in the future it's going to make it happen. We need to stay within a smaller type of mom and pop stores and businesses that can, I say mom and pop, but something from 10 to 50 employees, so that if something does happen, it doesn't crash our economy like Canocti did, Blue Cross Blue Shields. We've seen how that happened with us. When you have those big corporations that come in here, and when they go out, it's just devastating to our area. So when you have to find a way to be economically stable, it's not just about the development of what we're having, but you have to be stable so that if something happens, we're not totally crashed like we have been over the past several times that this has happened to us. So I'm looking more for more of the mom and pop stores. That's what District 2 people said they wanted. There is a plan that showed that that's kind of what they wanted at our airport property out here, was more small businesses, some large, but some more small, and living there and stuff. And I think we need to stay with the vision of the community here and go with that in our district.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up question from an audience member, we've talked about economic development, but more specifically, starting with Joyce, what does economic development mean to you?
I just kind of said that. I think economic means to become stable in our community. It means providing the housing, providing viable jobs, not just jobs, but they have to be viable jobs that are going to be here permanently, and living wages. And you can, and our economy will build from that. When you stabilize your community, then you stabilize the value of your community. We'll bring in the businesses that need to come. We need people there to help these people who are wanting to start businesses. I think we need an organization that can help them move forward with plans and business plans and funding, and to help them get through and become stable business owners, so that there is no crash for these people. You have to become more stable and watch how the flow goes. And it's not all about tourism necessarily coming into here, because that seems to be what most people are looking for, is a lot of tourism coming in here. But we are no longer the retirement center that we used to be. We have families that are here, and we need to create the stability for those families to prosper here and stay here and not move out of our county when their kids grow up. Economics has everything to do with the ins and outs of the community. And if people are moving and leaving our community, that's what fluctuates our economy. So I would say that we need to become more stable and provide help for people to be able to have their businesses and provide the jobs that I hope are not just minimum wage jobs, higher paying jobs, so that they can stay here and become productive citizens in our community.
Thank you. Bruno?
Would you mind repeating that secondary question?
Sure. What does economic development mean to you?
What it means to me is having a plan to be successful for the future. Part of my platform is creating better access to education. We lost Marymount, and unfortunately we only had 2 graduating classes from Marymount. We need to make sure and bring back a 4-year university, or access to a 4-year university. Many of our students either do not continue in education because of the lack of access, or they leave and don't come back. I know that in the city of Clear Lake, the percentage of people who have a bachelor's is 8%. In the county, it is about 15%, and in the rest of California, it's 31%. And I can promise you that if we move that number up, that we would see a better economy here, because we have people who can fill in the 25% vacancy that we have in the county of Lake, where we need those people in those positions to provide a service to our community members. Part of the economic development is also streamlining our pipeline for development. I've experienced what we have here in Clear Lake, and unfortunately we're asking so much from so little amount of staff that we have clogs in our pipeline. And we need to make sure to not have those clogs, so that we can't sit here and talk about a project that for 10, 15 years we've been talking about, like the shopping center. It needs to be done, and I grow impatient, but there's got to be ways to be able to streamline the process. We need to either have somebody focused specifically on those types of projects rather than focused on 20 different projects throughout every different department. Agritourism is the #1 growing tourist attraction in the state of California. We live in an agricultural county. We need to market our agriculture here. We need to be able to possibly give incentives to creating more beds and breakfasts, creating more tourist attractions, because the 21st century traveler wants an experience. They don't want something to see that they can just go online on Google and see. We can offer that experience. We have a beautiful area and we have beautiful things that we can have people come and enjoy and be a part of, and I think that's a way to make sure that we can economically develop in a successful way.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Bruno. Marijuana or cannabis isn't new in Clear Lake, but its incarnation as a legal recreational substance is. The city's been proactive in its work with the cannabis industry, and there are now some large commercial projects slated to locate here. As a member of the city council that has presided over those changes at the city level, I'd like you to consider this question. Does District 2 overall, not just the city, have the regulatory structure in place to strike the necessary balance between health and safety concerns with the legal right to use cannabis? And how can it be proved, and how would you do that as a member of the Board of Supervisors?
So for the usage of cannabis, there's very strict state laws. You can't do it in public. You have to do it in your private home or in a private membership, such as a club where we have approved here to have lounges in our dispensaries. As far as the commercial regulations that are coming down, I know that from the perspective of the city of Clear Lake, we took what I feel is a middle of the road, not overly conservative, not overly liberal. We're not offering it up to the masses to be able to take part in the industry. Actually, I've had quite a lot of phone calls from people who are upset that we are not offering more licenses. But we want to slowly get into the, open up the industry to see how it's going to work for us, because we've seen in the past where there have been illegal grows. I don't want to say everywhere, but too often you would smell it and see it visibly wherever you're going in every neighborhood in our city. That is slowly disappearing, and we want to make sure that we don't accidentally recreate an obstacle for us as we move forward. I think cannabis is here, cannabis is going to stay, but we need to make sure and regulate it well, and over the next 3 to 5 years, I think every city and county that is creating different ordinances are going to learn what works best, and we will have a best practice regulation that will probably come down the pike. I, for one, would not like to see the county go for what they've opened up for, which is outdoor grows. I don't think us as human beings are ready to socially deal with a plant that still has the value that it has out in the open. That worries me. I would like to see what the city of Clear Lake has done, which is only greenhouse hybrid or indoor only. However, I also felt that the county was a little behind in getting their ordinances put together while we were ready by January 1st, but I'm really happy that the county has also expedited the licenses so that the cannabis growers who are getting licensed can grow this season, because they are in need of revenue, and I was a little worried about that, but I'm glad that they've made the necessary steps.
Thank you. Joyce?
Okay, yeah. Well, we did, I think that Clear Lake did a great job. We argued it out a lot. We made some changes as time came to the council. Even after the first reading, we made changes to it to try to collaborate with people. And then even after that, when it came back for the second reading, we worked with more of the marijuana things and realized there might be another area for us. I believe the county is their first step. It is considered agriculture, and that there may be appropriate places and areas that it may be appropriate to grow. I would definitely curtail that it be grown in the appropriate ag areas and not around the residential areas. And also that it needs to be checked to make sure that they're following environmental health. We don't want some of the chemicals that they tend to use going into our lakes, because they become very dangerous and add to our problems that we already have. I think as time goes on, adjustments are always made. Our resolution here will probably be adjusted as time goes on, and I'm sure the county will too. I agree that they should have been on it way sooner before they were. They should have started it. You always think the county's going to be ahead of the cities most of the time, but I think the Clear Lake, I'm very proud to say that we have been the forefront of a lot of different ordinances that needed to be put in place, and I have to say we've been on it. I'm proud that we've been on it. We've been moving forward very quickly on these things, and I would hope that at the county level I can kind of maybe get them to move forward and not stay, not be behind. They should be the forefront of us, not behind us.
Thank you. Okay, a related question from an audience member. We'll start with Joyce. What's your position on marijuana being considered on the Lakeshore Drive corridor here in Clear Lake? The questioner says it's not consistent to the plan that was set forth by the prior council. Why change the game?
Well, I don't believe it should be changed. We set an ordinance that it's not to be on Lakeshore Drive, and I pretty much believe that's the way it should stay. That is what I call our green belt. And hopefully as soon as our park's done, we can really see the green. It's where people come and they see us, and I don't think any of us want to be known as just the marijuana city. We still have a lot of seniors that come here to recreation, a lot of families that come here to recreation, and I know it's all legal now, but I still don't feel that it's appropriate. We do have, a shop that's already there, that's, storefront. I think that if you start putting it on the lakeside drive, would be, on the water side would be very detrimental. Would be taking away from the tourism that we can draw into there. My hope is someday that somebody comes by and buys all that stuff on Lakeshore Drive and makes us a really nice boardwalk. We didn't have that chance back in 2008, and because of the crash, the developer went somewhere else, which was really kind of sad. But hopefully, another developer will come in and see the potential of building Lakeside Drive, the Lakeshore Drive there as a boardwalk. So I believe that our ordinance is good. I believe it needs to stay. The shops need to stay where they're at and where they've been allocated to be.
Thank you. Bruno.
Cannabis on Lakeshore Drive. We did indeed decide that cultivation should not be on Lakeshore Drive, and I think that makes perfect sense. The idea of growing a product that you can't even sell right there on that spot is just not a good idea. It needs to be retail shop space. That's what Lakeshore Drive is for. It's for our residents to go on the main strip and shop at our local shops, and it's also meant to attract visitors to come down to the area. However, I do think that cannabis is an attraction for visitors. As far as I'm concerned, you go to Amsterdam, that's where the English go for a vacation, because that's where they choose to go for tourist attractions. People from all over Europe go there. Now, I don't want to see it to be like Amsterdam, where unfortunately they have more coffee shops than they probably should have, but we're limited to 3 retail stores, and so we're not offering a whole strip of marijuana stores to go to. We're offering a few places where clientele can go, and if we want to start a new industry, we want that industry to grow and to prosper, no pun intended, then we should put them where people can see them. And if we want to hide a new industry, then we're not offering them the opportunity to succeed. And I think that Lakeshore Drive and Olympic Drive for retail shops is a decent place for them to be visible and be successful. And their success makes us have greater revenue. We're not adding, at least at this moment in time, we're not talking about adding more dispensaries. And so it's not like we're expanding what is already there. What we're doing is ensuring that they're successful, that they have access to legal product, and that they're selling legal stuff to people who are either visiting or coming by as residents. I think it is not going to solve our revenue deficits, not that we have a deficit, but what we would like to see our revenues be. And for the county, it's not going to solve their revenue deficits either, but it's going to help. It's one of those factors that I'm glad that we've allowed, and that we're going to see in the future how it truly benefits us.
Thank you. Next one, we'll start with Bruno. Next question. Wildland fires have become a greater concern for Lake County over the past decade. Making the entire county safer when it comes to fire is an obvious goal. With the sulfur fire less than a year ago, what lesson do you think that incident has for District 2, and what are the takeaways for making District 2 safer? And how would you address that in the county government structure? And we'll start with Bruno.
Yeah, the sulfur fire was scary. Waking up in the middle of the night to see a huge orange glow out my window was not something that I expected, and it's not something I'm willing to forget very easily. What's scary is what we learned, not just from the sulfur fire, but from all the other fires in Santa Rosa, where even those who have the utmost of open space still unfortunately got burned. And that's really scary because talking to our firefighters, this is not something that is over. Fire season is growing, not shrinking. And we've talked about our economy in multiple ways tonight already. The harm that it's had on our economy, our loss of property taxes, our loss of people who have left and are not willing to rebuild. We need to look at our fire suppression program. We need to create a new and stronger fire suppression program, because if we keep waiting for these things to happen rather than being proactive and really trying to cut down the brush around our residential areas, we have a lot of open space and we love our open space, and that's why we're here in Lake County. But we need to protect our growth zones, our residential zones, because if we don't enforce for property owners to abate their properties, or for county to go after the properties themselves in the areas where there is potential for harm to our residents, we're going to keep seeing this hole that we dig ourselves into, which it's not our fault that there's a fire, but we keep getting into this hole where we get an economic bust. Because all of a sudden we're spending a lot of money to recover. All of a sudden we're losing money from property taxes going away. And I think that the extra cost of extra fire suppression in an intensified program can benefit us in the long run by not having to have these huge, horrible costs, not only to our properties, but also to our lives.
Thank you. Joyce?
Well, this is the main reason why we need to make sure that our fire department is fully staffed, that we have the equipment that is necessary for them to have, because we are always in a fire zone time. When people say it's fire season, in Lake County, it is always fire season, and I've really been trying to get that out to people to remember. It is always fire season in Lake County. A fire can start at any time, no matter what time of year. It's important to make sure that the properties are cleared appropriately. We need to make sure that they're enforced appropriately. We need to make sure when the houses are built, it is now a state law, and I'm really glad to see that they get these sprinkler systems in with these fire suppressants systems in there to help protect them. I feel like it would be really nice if we had an alarm system that when a fire started, a siren would go off. Since we are in such a high fire area, I think should be some throughout, especially in places like Cobb, where the mountains, we have the jumper fires here in Lake County, and fires can travel very fast and you never know where they're going to go. I think siren systems should be in place in our county, so that when something like that happens, at least the siren can go off in the areas that to warn the people. Because what happened through all these fires was a lot of people just didn't know. They were sleeping, they were watching TV and some of the fires. Next thing you know, they look out their window and there's a fire because they didn't get the calls. People need to hook up to these systems. They need to hook up to the Nexus systems. They need to make sure that they're getting those calls. But I still believe that we need some kind of a siren system to also have a warning system here for our community.
Thank you. Okay, we've got two questions from the audience that are very closely related, so we're going to make it a two-part question. And we'll start with Joyce. Specifically, what role do you envision the Board of Supervisors exercising in terms of job creation? And on the topic of job creation, what's the most important thing we should do to create jobs in Lake County?
One of the things that I think that as supervisors that I would do would probably be pretty much similar to what I've done here in Clear Lake. I like to go around and I like to go around the county and find properties that I feel would make good businesses. And a lot of land that we have right here in Clear Lake in District 2, I have taken pictures of. I would come into the planning department and work with our engineers to find out what type of business could go there. and start calling developers to see if they would be interested in doing something with that property. One of the things I think the county needs to do is we need to market our properties the way we want. I see developers coming in and telling us that they want these certain things here. And I think that it's the supervisor's job to start planning on what do we want to see in our district, instead of letting developers come in and tell us what they can build. Across the street right here, I mean, we've had developers tell us many different things, but I think it's really time for the community to decide what is it that we want over here. Is it a hotel? Is it a timeshare? Is it, so I think that, and with these brings jobs, they do bring jobs, but we have to be sensible about what we're putting in our area. Clear Lake doesn't have a lot of growth per se to do as far as businesses. We don't have that much. So it's really going to be very important for us in District 2 to try to help the city go in the right direction on picking out the right type of businesses for here to make our economics grow and grow in the appropriate way.
Thank you. Bruno?
I think there's two things to this question. One, I hear often that there's no jobs out here, yet I see a lot of job opportunities that I receive weekly in a email from our ClearPoint offices. We hear of Lake County that has a 25% their jobs aren't being filled, 25% of their positions aren't filled. So I don't think that it's necessary that we have to look at more ways. We need more jobs because especially the low-level jobs, those are hard to get, especially for those getting right out of high school and for young adults. But we also don't have the high skills needed to cover these jobs. And so I go back to education, where I think it would be good to have a contract with those who are already working with the county or those who might already have an AA degree and say, look, we'll help you get through the last portion of your college so that you can come back and obtain the skills you need to fill in these roles, and our contract will say you work for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, in order to help compensate for the subsidies that we gave them for their education. We have a lot of people here who could be employed, and yet we're looking outside of our county for nurses, we're looking outside of our county for doctors, we're looking outside of our county for engineers. We're struggling to find some of the key positions to really move our departments that need to serve our community. For the creation of jobs, one example for District 2 is our shopping center. And at that point, the county would benefit from the sales tax as well as the city, and so the county should be looking at helping possibly decrease the cost of sewer hookups or things of the kind to be able to say, look, we'll drop this to help out and sweeten the deal for the developers so that we can gain from when there's something that's developed and there that can actually, that works for us and that creates jobs and that makes the market move in our area. And I think that they should be focusing in other areas as well as District 2.
Thank you. Next question from an audience member. The county is seeking ideas for recruitment and retention, non-economic ideas, excuse me, for recruitment and retention. What is your opinion of allowing county staff to have alternate work schedules? And we'll start with Bruno.
Alternate staff schedule. I think first off, it's good to always, for the services that are needed for the week, whether it's code enforcement, obviously we can't talk about our police officers because they have to be there 7 days a week. Criminals don't stop doing crimes on Saturday or Sunday. But code enforcement, animal control, even public works would be great to have 7 days a week. But to have the alternating schedule makes it difficult to manage the projects. I think what we need to do before we look at alternate schedules is we need to figure out how to just bolster our revenues. If we start splicing who is available when and where, then we start splicing our abilities to be efficient in what it is that we need to do. But for recruitment and retention, I'm going to be so bold as saying that we need to look at our leadership to increase the morale of our people that are working for the county to want to work for the county and to want to work for the residents of District 2 and the county. Because when you go to work and you're happy, that's a pay that you cannot match. If you go to work and you feel valued and you feel like you accomplished something, that's a pay that can't be matched. And so maybe we pay you 75% of what another county would actually pay you, but when you get to enjoy your life, live in a beautiful place, and feel valued and that you're participating in something greater than yourself, then it feels like your job is important. And at that point, you might want to stay and enjoy what it is that you're doing. And I think that we can change how it is that our employees, the retention is an issue, but happiness has a lot to do with it, and I think people are looking for bigger things, and money is really not the most important. I think they're looking for a change, a bigger change than that.
Thank you. Joyce?
So can you read that again, please?
Sure. The county is seeking non-economic ideas for recruitment and retention. What is your opinion on allowing county staff to have alternate work schedules?
Well, we all know that that would appeal to me. So I think what they're trying to do, because it is hard to get people to come up here with the pay, and it doesn't matter that we know that it's a beautiful place and we love it when you're recruiting people from out of the area for. So, sometimes it's administration, sometimes it's not. So I think having some flexibility for scheduling, it has worked most of the time for the city of Clear Lake. We started doing that. And I think now we're going to where, as long as there is staffing there that is capable of providing the public with the services that they need, I don't see any reason why there should not be some flexibility in the scheduling. It makes it to where it's easier to hire people. There's people who are night people, weekend people. It makes it to where you get the best ability of their energy. And when you have the best of their energy, then you get the best quality of work. So when you have the flexibility to do that, if somebody's an afternoon person, I would rather see them work in the afternoon if that's what they like to do and they have the energy in the afternoon than I would trying to force them to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning when they really don't want to be there. So you know they're really not doing the job until the afternoon anyway. So if there was the ability to actually have a flexibility of different ways to have them work, and their abilities to do that makes them happy, productivity is higher, and the work is just getting done a lot better than what it is now. So I think this would be a great idea.
Thank you. Following up on retention and those types of things, another question from the audience. We'll start with Joyce. This again, building on economic development and job creation. What would you do to improve or create a workforce training and development program in Lake County to provide a qualified, certified, fully trained pool of workers for businesses?
Well, I know my opponent's been talking about education and four-year colleges. I believe that we need more tech schools and schools that will provide not everybody's going to go get a bachelor's or a master's degree. It's life. The majority of the people are not. I think we need more tech schools to train for what we consider the lower end jobs. The worker bees is what I call us. It's not feasible to have a four-year college here in Lake County. We've already seen that did not work, and the reason why it doesn't work is because we're a small county and we don't have enough people that's going to go to a four-year college. So I think the tech schools are something that we need to really start focusing more on. I think we have a better workforce here, and those are the jobs that are really needed, and they can become very good paying and livable wages as their training goes on, and we can focus on that. And the four-year colleges could, if they could work it out, they'd have to work it out through the two-year colleges that we have now. There's just not the feasibility of having those type of facilities here.
Thank you. Bruno?
So I have been talking about the four-year universities, but I happen to also work at a community college, Woodland Community College, where there are trade schools. Both Mendocino, they have a construction program over there that's different than what we offer at Woodland. We offer welding, we offer water treatment, so the trade school programs are here. There could be more, but unfortunately it's based on our job and labor market data, and so we need to increase the way that we advertise our jobs so that our colleges can increase the possible programs that are being offered to our communities. We do have quite a lot of four-year university students. About 10% of all our high school children go to four-year universities as freshmen, and about 20 to 30 students just out of Woodland Community College go to four-year universities. It would just be a satellite. We're not asking for a brand new university, and those are possibilities that we can look into as well, because I don't think Marymount was dealt with appropriately to really benefit our community as much as it could have. But what I'm also doing right now, and I intend to continue working with Sheriff Brian Martin and Captain Greg Hossman over at the county jail, is to implement those types of trade school classes in the jail. We have inmates right now. We have a high recidivism rate. I believe I've been told, and Mr. Anderson could correct me, but I believe I've heard it from him, that we have approximately 70% or higher recidivism rate in our county of prisoners who are released and then end up going back to jail. And we need to stop that, because in my opinion, that's a failing rate. And that's because when you get out of jail, you don't have much money, and you also don't have much to go back to other than maybe your friend's house or your family's house where you were already doing these bad things. If we offer these classes, not only do they get to walk out with maybe a piece of paper that says that they can work in the culinary arts, they can do some welding, they can work in the ag business, but also they can collect their financial aid, so now they have their first and second and last month deposit for renting their own apartment to start their own life rather than relying on their past to get back on their feet. And I think that we can really make a change if we can offer our inmates as they get out to not be stuck in this vicious cycle and to become participants in our community.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Bruno. Public safety is a large part of local government spending. And what do you think should be local law enforcement's priorities? And have you discussed those with local law enforcement officials?
So I've had many discussions with local law enforcement, and it's been really hard here in California because of some of the propositions that have come down, Prop 47, AB 109 realignment, Prop 57 as well. And I feel that these laws have allowed us to ignore the broken window. And we are waiting for the explosion to really be able to take action. Our jails are full, and so those little petty crimes, unfortunately, can't be placed as a high importance. And I really want to see that reversed. I really want to see that there can be some consequences for those petty crimes. There can be some action taken on those people, because if we keep ignoring it, then it's going to become the new standard of what's okay, what's allowed to do. And it's difficult, because again, we have limited capacity in our jails. We have limited capacity in our district attorney's office to be able to go after every little crime. And so how do we change that? And that's a question that I really can't answer for you, other than we need to figure out how it is that we can get back to controlling our communities rather than allowing people to run rampant and do what they want. And it's not a large majority of us. It's a small minority, but that small minority can make such a huge impact on your neighborhood and your area. I've seen it myself. And it's public safety is very important, and we need to figure out how to solve those problems. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have some of those answers. But I do know that I looked up Prop 47, and I could be mistaken, it might have been Prop 57, where there's a grant opportunity, and I saw lots of counties on there, but I didn't see Lake County. And some of those grant fundings was up to $10 million. So I would like to make sure, and I know we just hired at the county a grant writer, I would like to make sure that in the following years or in the following year, that we are absolutely going for those grants to get any kind of funding we can to help us.
Thank you. Joyce?
Yeah, it's really a shame because, fortunately, I don't know if funding is even going to help, because you can put all the police officers in the world when these laws have changed and made it to where they really can't do their job. So I think really it stands to going back to the state, going back to the people, helping our law enforcement probably reverse some of these things or revamp them, which I know some of them are up at the assembly now being looked at to be revamped, where some of this stuff is not, it's been hard for them. I would support, the changes that I see at the state right now, and definitely think that there's more that needs to come. I think it's important that we try to make sure that our law enforcement are fully forced and ready to go, and that we stand behind them in what they do. They are the people that protect us. And unfortunately for, Lake County, we don't have the funding to pay them what we probably should, and we've been very lucky to keep some of them that we have right here in our district. But I think it stems at the state. I think as supervisor, I would work with law enforcement to fight some of these laws, to make some changes at the state level. That's where it needs to start.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Joyce. Clear Lake is vital to Lake County, not just as a water source, but as the center of the tourism industry. And in recent years, Clear Lake has been beset by issues, including a number of large blue-green algal blooms that resulted in county health warnings. What can the Board of Supervisors realistically do to improve Clear Lake, and how do you propose to be involved in that work?
My favorite subject. That's my favorite subject, really it is. Worked hard back when the cyanobacteria really came to Clear Lake. It was overwhelming to our resorts. I had town hall meetings on that. Couldn't get help from the state. Finally had to go public, and we really did go cross-nation. I mean, it was everywhere. We got our first $100,000 from that incident of really going public. Blue-green algae has been here before, and it was going to be back. We've kind of been nice the last couple of years. It's a huge lake, and one of the problems isn't that there's things that can't be done, it's the expense that it takes to do them. So I would been thinking about some industries that we can make out of, where there's something bad, there's always something good. And that's what we got to quit looking at. We got to quit looking at always bad, because we're trying to fix something bad, but we're not moving forward with thinking of, here we have this algae, what can we do with it? This algae can actually is a business. It's a business for a small business person to take this algae, and it's great fertilizer. So we have, I think as a county person, I would be looking to try to see if we could figure out a way to promote this as a business and work with the county and the environmentals, and you have to work with the waterways and the fish and game to see what we could do to be able to remove that algae and create a business out of it. Instead of always talking about it's so horrible, there are things we can do with it, and I think it's time that we move forward in that way, because we're not going to be able to use the chemicals. It would cost trillions of dollars to fix this lake with something like that. So the next best thing is take something bad and make something good.
Thank you. Bruno.
I think there's two important things that as supervisor we would need to support as a group, and that's number one, AB 707, the Blue Ribbon Committee, which has elected UC Davis to go ahead and do new research on the lake. Last research that I saw was a pretty thick book from 1984 that was also done by UC Davis, but we've seen a lot of changes. I'm not sure how many in the group here have ever watched Dr. Lyon's presentation about the lake, but we've evolved. We've moved forward, and we have a beautiful ancient lake that is actually really healthy naturally, just not beneficial to us on the economic side. And so I think we need to support AB 707 and Assemblymember Aguiar Curry to ensure that we can get that moving, to get the research done, and at the end there's money set aside so that we have action based on the research. And I think that's the important part that wasn't around with the 1984 research that was done, is we got a lot of information, and then we were given that information without any funding to be able to take a handle of it on our own. And I think that as a county, our revenues just aren't high enough to be able to take aside that much funds that would be required to take those kinds of actions. And I think working with Assemblymember Aguiar Curry is going to be really important. And the second thing is the Middle Creek Restoration Project. Unfortunately, it's been going on since I want to say 1979. But at the same time, we just obtained $15 million in order to try to obtain the properties that are left over in that area so that we can open up again and flood it to make it a marshland, where that marshland can help be a natural device of filtration so that we can stop the influx of nutrients coming into our lake and hopefully reduce the amount of algae that is in our lake as well. And I think those are two really great steps we need to take, but we also, as a supervisor board, need to take more part of being the watershed protection district. Not often enough do we put on the hat of being the watershed protection district, more so than the Board of Supervisors, and I think if we have a better focus on the lake in each meeting to see what is happening and what else we can do, it would make sure that it's in front of us at all times, and that we don't forget that we need to be working on this lake.
Thank you. Next question, start with Bruno. Lake County is known for having a very large veterans population per capita. And in your experience or from your observation, what services for veterans need to be improved here, and how would you propose to do that on the Board of Supervisors?
I think the VA clinic that was built here in Clear Lake was a huge move in providing that resource to our veterans. Unfortunately, being one of the highest per capita counties in California, if not the entire United States, but at least California for veterans, when you know that 33% of all veterans are homeless, we are not providing support to those homeless vets. We just started. There was a great group put together called Project Restoration, and they are helping connect people with the VA benefits that they could have used to obtain houses. I believe 1 or 2 of them have used those services, mainly using it from their spouse, their spouses that have passed away. But we need to provide more. We've been talking about this veteran housing project. That was one of the first votes that I made here on this council, where Anthony Farrington, Supervisor Farrington, and Supervisor Smith came to us with a wonderful project. I believe there was an issue of funds not being able to be transferred over to the county from the proposition that they were going to draw the funds from. But the project has been brought back to life, and I really want to support that project because offering homes to our veterans who do not have homes is an important part in ensuring that they have proper health and proper longevity of their lives, or else we are really not providing the services that we should. And so that right there, to me, is one of those projects that we need to make sure and focus on and complete. Not only would it develop a piece of property on Clear Lake into something that would look really nice and fit right in, but we would be helping multiple problems, in my opinion, homelessness, veteran needs, and more. And so that's definitely one of the top projects.
Thank you. Joyce?
Well, our VA facility is wonderful compared to what we had before, but it definitely needs to be updated and larger. There's not enough facilities here for our VAs, so they're always having to go out of our area, even for some of the small things that I really feel like should be able to be covered. I think our VA needs to make more connections with our local facilities and maybe contract out for some of the services that can be provided right here in our county instead of having to have our vets get on a bus, drive 2-3 hours, and even if their appointment is 1 hour, they're there, they have to wait till the evening to come home. There needs to be a better facility. A lot of our vets are not getting the information that they need, such as money that's owed to them is called a pension. And I've been working with the VA Social Service Department to try to get that information out to our seniors, because some of them are out here and per se they may not have houses, which if I find any of those, so far I've been able to house every single vet that has come through to me by working with the VA. But there is pensions out there. It's called a pension, but it's kind of different. If you were in the service before 1980, there is some money there that is in a pot for them that most vets don't even know that they have the right to have. And I mean, it could be anywhere from $600 to $900 extra dollars a month. That's tremendous. That could put them in a home. So what we're finding is that some of these vets that are homeless per se didn't even know they had this money. And so by working with the VA clinic, but they need to be able to have, they need more help there at that clinic. I think it needs to be expanded, and I think there needs to be some contracts between the VA and our local facilities to, instead of having to always send them over the mountain.
Thank you. Okay, and I don't want to leave out seniors when we're talking about large populations. So the next question, we'll start with Joyce. Again, Lake County has a very large senior population, and what do we need to do to serve them better?
Well, first off, we need to get them out of their houses. That is the biggest thing. Transportation for our seniors, which we started working with the transit, and hopefully there was a grant that we can help them get out. One of the things that I get complaints about is it's too far to the bus stop for them. So we need to be able to have a better transportation. A lot of them would get out of their houses and do things, but they just don't have a way to do it. I think our IHSS, which is in-home support services, needs some revamping. They give somebody, let's say, that really can't cook for themselves 6 hours a month 4 meals. Well, you know as well as I do, that's just not enough. So I really feel like we need to figure out a better transportation. Dial-A ride's, great, but sometimes, if you don't call the day before, you can't get a ride. I think a lot of them are becoming isolated because of that, which is not healthy for them. It's not all about the food, because, eating healthy is really great, but being active is even more important, because if you're not active, your brains basically starts dying. So I think we need to find a way to get them out of their houses, better transportation, maybe better, closer bus stops, because bus stops are they're quite a ways away. I'd like to work with the transit on working on trying to find out some grants about getting some bus stops, especially around where we have senior living already. We have a lot of senior facilities, and they need better transportation. They have like one in 2 blocks, and then they have to walk 5 or 6 blocks to get to another one from another facility. So I think the transportation is the number one thing we need to try to change.
Thank you. Bruno.
Yeah, our seniors are really important. Our seniors are people who have gone through their lives, served their duty to our communities and to their families, and unfortunately the struggle is very real in our communities. One of those struggles, 2 of those struggles, we saw in the visioning forums that county is looking at how do we keep supporting our senior centers. And so I have an idea for that, and I know it's not going to be an easy one, but I really like the Middletown model of having a library and a senior center in the same place. Right now, the county is supporting separate buildings, and why not combine those buildings to cut down one overhead of having 2 of them? And so combining the libraries and senior centers can bring those people together. We're looking at a trend in our libraries that are making them become community centers. Well, community centers are vibrant. Community centers have people that are looking for specific needs. And I think if we can combine a community center with a senior center, the library with a senior center, that has benefits, including savings to the county, because I do not want to see those senior centers being cut back. I don't want to see them struggling more so than they already are. And so unfortunately, there needs to be a solution rather than watching it wither away. The other one is rent prices. With the fires, we've seen rent prices go up. I just saw a 2-bedroom house here in Clear Lake, not too far from City Hall, going for $1,400 a month. How do people on fixed income, seniors, continue to afford to live in a home where rent has the ability to go up? Legally, a landlord can raise it 10%. Over the course of a certain amount of time, and so they can do that continuously once a year if they wanted to, in order to keep up with the trends of what prices are here. I know it's a bad word, but I'm willing to look at what kind of rent control we can have for senior living, because at what point do we start kicking out our seniors if they can't afford to live here? This is their homes, and I've seen it from working at a home health department in a hospital. When you take a person away from their home, you take them away from their comforts, and it hurts them with their health. It does not help them. And the last one is, that's why we need our youth to succeed here, because as people get older, it's for the next generation to come through and help out.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start to wrap up tonight. This is going to be the final question. As the 2 of you have been out in the community campaigning and talking to community members and local government and your candidacy, what are the priorities that people are bringing to you to discuss, and has anything surprised you? And we'll start with Bruno.
The 2 most common topics that I'm talked about is when it comes to agriculture and it comes to our overall county is water. People are worried about their drinking water and the quality of the lake. People are worried about adding more stress to our water resources by having cannabis expanded as a legitimate industry here. And I think that that's a legitimate concern, seeing that not too long ago when we were in a deep drought, people's wells were drying out, and yet new agriculture was being put in. Granted, we did have about 3,500 illegal grows last year that were also using water, and we're planning on reducing that and creating some legal grows. But with the same issue of wildfires increasing the season, Global warming, as far as the temperature of our planet, is still, no matter how we feel, who's in fault for it, it's getting warmer every single year. And therefore, it's going to create roller coaster rides of how much water we have. We might have floods one year and droughts another. It's going to get extreme. And we can't set ourselves up where we will have some of our farmers or some of our agriculture, especially the ones that have been here for a long time, to struggle and potentially fail because we have not coordinated and organized the use of our water. So we need to be careful, because there is a finite amount of water on Earth, but it doesn't mean it always has to fall in the same exact place every year. And the other one is roads. People really want their roads worked on, and so some of that is in Clear Lake. We're taking care of that in Measure fee. In Lake County, there's no measure, no specific tax that helps out with roads, but they still have the same concerns that they would really like their roads worked on. I have not had anything overly surprising, except for those that are pro or con to cannabis and the introduction of that to Lake County. Some people have surprised me in both directions.
Thank you. Joyce?
I think the biggest concern that I've come across, of course, is housing. With one, we had, a shortage of housing already for people, affordability, and then, of course, with the fires has not helped us any. Our senior population is growing, so our senior housing is full. So there is really no senior housing available. And I think the biggest concern also with our community is, with the senior community, is their rents and their food costs because of taxes and wages going up, but their money is not going up for their retirement. So there's less and less money even now for them to survive on. Rent control is not something that I would probably per se would like to even see, but I do think that I am looking not for low-income apartments, but I am looking more for low-income housing to help, facilitate where we make them part of the community and not just put them in a box and everybody knows they're low-income because they live in this facility. Most communities try to variate that throughout the community so that really nobody's ashamed of what their wages are. I think that's something that we should start looking at doing. Even if there's condos, own your own condo, even the concept is still better than an apartment. Surprisingly, transportation, of course, has always been a big thing in our town, even though we've done very well to make it better than what it was ever. But those are the things that I think is the high priorities and the job situations of instead of low-paying jobs, people are looking for something that's more of a middle-income job. I'm not saying they're not out there to get rich, but they are out there to make something more than minimum wage. Minimum wage was developed for kids in school, working, they're still living at home, and now we find families actually trying to live on minimum wage. So we do need to start looking at, ways that we can help our community build a better job status that's sustainable of a living wage, an actual living wage.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you to the audience. You gave us a lot of good questions tonight. We're going to start to move into the closing statements. This is each candidate gets 2 minutes. They can talk about anything they want to. They can go back, touch on a topic maybe they want to explore more, or just anything. This is completely your time. And we're going to go in reverse alpha order. We started out with Joyce giving the first opening statement, so we're going to start with Bruno giving the first closing statement.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for all the questions. Thank you to the audience as well. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a difficult task to be a supervisor for Lake County. We have an uphill battle to come around, but I am proud that I have been part of the uphill battle here in Clear Lake to turn us around, and I'm hearing a lot of positive feedback about where we're going right now. I just went back into my old neighborhood while I was knocking on doors, and I received some kudos from my old neighbor, of the changes that he's seen in that neighborhood. And that's from some of the changes that we've made, our strategic plan, what it is that we need to focus on. And I think that I can bring that same value that was brought to Clear Lake to Lake County. And I am absolutely looking for understanding more and being able to be part of the big picture. Clear Lake opened up my mind from just a community that I lived in to the entire city that I live in. and I know that there's so much to learn from every department that is in Lake County. I am a UC Davis graduate in political science. That is not by mistake, that was by design, because I knew I wanted to be involved in politics, and I wanted to learn of what works and how to make cities prosper and how the economy runs. And I think that I can bring that knowledge to Lake County and the understanding of how to go through budgets and how to go through ordinances and read legal documents to be able to really make the right choices of what needs to happen in our community to make positive change. I have a vision of where we should be in 10 years, and I hope that we can get there before it happens. And we need to not keep running after where we need to be. We need to get there before it happens. Again, my name is Bruno Sabatier. I'm running for District 2 Supervisor. I would love your vote. Thank you so much for listening to us tonight, and you have a tough decision to make. And hopefully I'll knock on your door so I can convince you some more. Have a good night.
Thank you. Joyce.
Well, I really thank everybody for coming tonight. Supervisor is a tough position for District 2. We are mainly the city of Clear Lake. So this is a different district than all the other districts because the county doesn't normally want to give us the money. They don't normally want to work with us really well. But one of the things I have done over the past 14 years, one of the things that I was committed to doing when I became your city council member was collaboration. When I first got on city council, the county wouldn't work with us, the school districts weren't work with us, sheriff's departments, dreaded working with us when they had to. And there was 2 council members at the time. We made the commitment to make sure we made those connections. I took the county and the police departments, and she took the school districts. And we have created a collaboration, and I'm very proud that we were able to do that, and it gets better and better every year as it goes on. I believe as a supervisor at the county, your main focus is really going to be making changes at the state level. That's where these changes happen for the county. You cannot sit here and just go to council or go to supervisors meetings and think that something's going to happen. You have to work hard. I'm willing to do that. I've done that already. I'm willing to carry that on into the county. I feel that that District 2 has a great vision. We've been moving forward with it. It still needs a lot of work, and there's a lot of things that need to happen. I think that we need to start taking areas and really working on cleaning them up. One of the things is we all know that the drugs have taken all over some of these areas, such as behind the police department, which I've been working on for many years. It takes time for things to happen. I hope that in the next 4 years we can see the county prospering with helping District 2 get funding to help create these tiny houses per se for senior living or homeless shelters or things to make some stability so that our economies can grow. Because until you get stable, we're not going to get better. We have to get stabilized where we're at in order to move forward. And I found that out with the city. We had to get stable. It took 10 years, but then we've been able to move forward because we stabilized ourselves. And that's the same thing that has to happen with our district and our economy. Thank you guys very much for coming here and listening to us. And yes, I'd like your vote on June 5th. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call.
Thank you both. So that ends our forum, and I'd like to thank our audience. You gave us a lot of great questions. And I'd like to thank, of course, the 2 people who got grilled here for the last hour and 15 minutes, Joyce Overton and Bruno Sabatier. Best of luck to you both. Thank you. District 2 does have a tough choice. It has 2 very qualified people. Lake County News wants to thank its co-sponsors, Lake County Economic Development Corp. And Lake County Bar Association. Stay tuned for upcoming announcements for the rest of the forums. I can quickly tell you that on April 30th, we'll be doing the Superintendent of Schools Forum in Lakeport. May 2nd, we will be doing a Judicial Forum here in Clear Lake. May 9th, District 3 also in Lakeport. And the District Attorney's race on May 14th in Lakeport. We'll have more of that coming up on Lake County News, announcing the dates and times. And this video also will be available on Lake County News' website in case you want to watch it. Again, I'm Elizabeth Larson with Lake County News. Thank you all very much and have a great evening.